I do want to bring in this concept of celebration. And one of the ways that you celebrate your birthday every year is walking. You have a walking birthday party, which I love. And in your last one, you asked people about their favorite walk. And you go, and it was just lovely. Like, it's like almost like a little documentary, like listening to
Yeah.
people's favorite walks. And so I thought it would be nice for us to talk briefly about celebrations, but then maybe share our favorite walks with each other. And maybe the listeners can think about their favorite walks as we're sharing them.
Right. So celebration has, again, always been a big movement time throughout the human timeline. And I really tried to call out celebration to meaning like all big, noting something monumental happening with the expression of emotions and grief. I put grief into the chapter as well, because grief,
Mhm.
I could do a whole episode on grief and movement. But we'll save that for now. So it's not always all 100% birthday parties. It's this
Yeah.
idea that anything monumental was always celebrated with a lot of movement, and that movement is all missing. And so what's going on with us as we go through these emotional landscapes? Yeah, and making it movement rich, whether that means doing more food by hand, whether it's making the one small thing that is traditional for you and not just buying it, already made, but spending the day making it, or a few hours, getting people involved, inviting people over to your house so that this celebration can go on longer. This idea that I'm thinking about that comment of like, this takes so much time to make it by hand.
Mhm.
But it's the idea of seeing the celebration grow beyond the 17 minutes where you sat down and consumed the meal or the thing, and more like, I had to make this dough 3 days before and let it rise, or I had to plant the corn 4 months before. And you are in the celebratory mindset and the space and the intention so much longer. And I have now realized that I mostly exist in a celebratory space. And simultaneously, most of my life is filled with mundane movement tasks. But because I've oriented them towards celebrations, I can live in a celebratory space all the time. And I feel much more connected to my roots that really were able to do that most of their time. Life is full of mundane tasks. Women have had the burden of doing many mundane tasks for a long period of time, but they need to be done. And I don't know that my tasks need to be done by someone else. Like, I don't feel particularly liberated from my tasks if someone else is just doing them. So to change my understanding around them and being like, oh, this is part of the celebration, I have come to find great joy in chores, something that my
Mhm.
mom finds mind boggling because, like every child, like I hated chores. Like I couldn't see the relationship. And now, my kids too hate chores, but we also do a lot of things that I know are chores that they think are celebration. And so in that way, I've really been able to find more movement, I guess, in the mundane. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. We find movement in the mundane. We do a lot of laundry folding on the floor while watching basketball games together as a family, and it's kind of fun. But I think the celebration aspect you're talking about, also just the anticipation and the preparation, which is very much part of when you look at sort of some of the research. It's actually the preparing and anticipation of something that brings us the most joy,
Hmm.
even more joy than the actual doing of it. It's like the planning of the birthday walk and who you're going to invite and how you're going to do it. So in closing, why don't you share with me what has been one of your favorite walks that you've ever done? And then I can share one of mine.
Oh my gosh, I've had so many great walks. I'll just pick out one that was more recent. My son turned 9 in April, 2 weeks after lockdown in the pandemic, so a couple of years ago. And we decided we were still going to do our celebration of walking our years on foot. So we had 9 miles to walk, but I sent out a an email to all of his friends saying we would be here, and if they wanted to do anything along the way, to go for it. And that walk was, I mean, we were met by people throwing flower petals, people leaving chalk signs, people hanging happy birthday posters, leaving treats or bringing things all along the way. So it was 9 miles. It was a 4 hours of 5 hours of walking. People would go by music, serenading. Like it was like a full community event, one community member at a time, all outside. And I don't know if we could have had a better 9-year old birthday party. I don't know if one will ever be more memorable than that walk. And yeah, it was great. And then, our whole family goes, and to have the children just involved and just seeing people show up, like it was really great. It was a wonderful day.
Yeah.
What about you?
I have lots of kids ones, but since my mom is in my mind, probably my favorite was when she turned 70 and I turned 40. She invited me to go to Peru with her, which is where she grew up, and I had never been. And what when we were driving from Cusco into the Sacred Valley of Peru, the bus driver said, "We're going to drop you off here at this top of this mountain so you can walk into the Sacred Valley because it's so much better to walk in than to drive in." And they dropped us off at these like salt fields, like where they were mining salt, this beautiful pink salt. And my mom and I and this group of people walked pretty much silently from the salt fields down into the valley. And it was like this return to something with her. And to do it with her in that way felt so sacred.
Mm-hmm.
Sacred Valley, as opposed to just sort of driving in and landing and getting here and, and here it is. The slowing it down in that way made it ever more special. And to spend that time with my mom is just, I will always hold that as a memory, even when she's gone. So walking into something, I think, changes your whole experience of it.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. Thank you, Katy. I'm sure we'll be able to talk again, I hope. And always looking forward to your next book because you have a million of them. They
I'm
they keep on
prolific.
coming. I know you're writing another one.
I
So
am.
I'm looking forward to that. And everyone gets better and then all the oldies are still goodies. So thank you so much for who you are, what you do, how you've changed my family's life. And if you're new to Katy Bowman, you're welcome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay. Take care.